All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with the whale capper, Drew Dinsick. Today we're going to talk Tiger Woods. Might have heard of him. He's back on the PGA Tour. We hope to be joined at some point by former PGA pro John McGuinness to discuss what we can talk from Tiger if John can make it later in the show. We'll also talk Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy as the favourites in the Genesis Invitational, whether that is warranted. Golf is back, Drew.
It's back.
Talking about Hassan Reddick. Now we're talking Rory McIlroy. How are you feeling about the golf season?
I'm feeling great. I don't know if you saw this morning. So it's cold here in LA. Like we are definitely feeling a little bit of the kind of final vestige of winter here. And you would know that if you saw Tiger Woods tee off at the for the Pro-Am. He's out there in the beanie up at Riviera. So there's a little bit of a chill in the air, but boy, is there buzz about this tournament here in LA. People are freaking excited about this field, and how could you not? I mean, last week's tournament in the desert was unbelievably cool. Obviously, the fan experience and the way that they just kind of lean into like this one's for the people. It's a very, very cool tournament, and they are bringing just as strong a field here to Riviera. Enormous purse. These elevated tournaments now are they're bringing out all of the world's best, and you have absolutely love to see it. So this is a little bit of a side effect of the live defections, is they had to figure out like, okay, we're going to put more money in the pots and we're going to get the best golfers out there, and we're going to put the best product on television when it comes to golf. And so far they are hitting it out of the park. You really couldn't ask for more. Like among my rankings, we have 18 of the top 20 golfers in the world here this week. The only guys we're missing are Cam Smith and Dustin Johnson. It's because they're on the Live Tour. Everybody who's on the PGA Tour is here, and it is going to be quite awesome.
Okay, well, let's talk about Tiger Woods. I think Tiger last year was one of the most interesting, betting stories, because his return playing the Masters, it was such a gigantic story, and with that came a lot of kind of prop markets around him, which has had to go up due to popular demand, and so there were a lot of rorts around his main prices, the Masters and everything. So, wondering if we might have any at the Genesis as well. So this is his first non-major PGA Tour start since 2020 at the Zozo Championship. He is plus 130 to make the cut this week, 150 to 1 to win. If you want to back that, you can just comment on YouTube and I'll take that bet. 25 to 1 to finish in the top 5, 11 to 1 top 10. Is there anything that you like around Tiger, Drew?
Okay, so this is where you kind of have to throw out your model a little bit for a golf bet, because you don't have any data that, the sample size is too small to really kind of come up with a realistic expectation for what to expect from Tiger Woods this week. And you have to it's a little bit more art than it is, than it is science. Most of the issues that he had last year, as far as I could tell you, came with the kind of the overall demand of how much, the physical exertion of walking, walking 18 holes a day, the toll that took on his body, really his performance deteriorated through the duration of a tournament, which is why he was better to kind of take on Tiger Woods at a tournament level rather than just kind of pick apart. He's not going to make the cut. Like, oh, he's just going to go and stink it up. Like that was never really sort of the right way to attack that. And I think until he proves he can kind of make it through 72 holes, at a consistent level, I think you still are buyer beware of getting involved at all in the tournament market. The data, just the raw data numbers would tell you that Tiger Woods has about a 40% chance to make the cut. That's obviously would imply that the miscut bet is the right side here with the current prices. But again, I am expecting him to, at a minimum, give you 2 decent rounds of golf. It's a packed field. It's a relatively friendly cut in terms of how many of these guys are going to make it. So I do not think that you go crazy. I do not think you go crazy on the miscut, especially at a price of minus 200. Aaron, I'm actually surprised that is the miscut price, because there's almost always a tax to back Tiger Woods doing something great. That looks like there's a tax on people who want to go out and fade Tiger Woods at that price, honestly. So, I think realistically you're looking at, a price in the ballpark of around plus 120, minus 120 for him to miss. And I think if I would lean towards optimism that we're going to see him on the weekend. Now, the key way to fade Tiger last year was to wait for round 3 and round 4, find a good matchup price, and go ham. And I think I'm going to be watching pretty closely at a lot of the clips we see from him, see how he's looking, walking at the end of his round 2. If he makes the cut, then kind of bombs away on him, over the balance of the weekend. So I'm not getting involved at all in the outright market. I'm not getting involved in the top 5, top 10, top 20 prices for him. Outright winner plus, plus 125 to 1. Like, that's a big number for Tiger. Even in the years where he really had no chance at winning a tournament, you didn't see prices in that range. So I think the players who really got their warts out of the way last year betting Tiger have probably corrected some of this market and maybe even overcorrected it. So there may be a time where we are talking about value on Tiger Woods at some point in this season, especially if after now 2 years, post crash, his most of the issues going on with his ability to navigate a golf course have kind of matriculated. So excited to see what he looks like this weekend. And without question, aside from which of the best golfers in the world is going to win this tournament, how does Tiger Woods look is literally the second most important story of this week.
Yeah. Okay. I shouldn't have made the joke then about personally booking the 151 tickets on Tiger. Good to see that you believe in him. That's an interesting swing. Yeah. Obviously, for the sport, there would be nothing better than Tiger making a run. I do think, to your point about, we saw how Tiger just completely collapsed day 3, day 4 as the body gave out last year. I think that is going to be that's the future of golf betting, is being able to live bet more and in more depth as tournaments progress on that type of stuff, on live matchups, and all that is coming as well. All that's going to be built out. I know that places like IMG Arena, that's what they specialize in. So I think that is going to be a lot of fun over the next couple of years as more of those markets come out, and there's a real way to hone in on players' strengths, weaknesses, how fatigue kicks in, whether Jordan Spieth has just lost it from a particular zone, whatever, all that stuff you're going to be able to get the eyes out of.
Can I ask you a bookmaking question, since you were behind the counter for a good portion of your career? Golf betting feels like it has an absolutely unlimited amount of ways that you can get the bettors involved. And the interest is only growing, right? Like we continue to age people into really caring about golf and therefore caring about golf betting. Why is it that you are stuck booking, or you're stuck betting a handful of head-to-heads, as opposed to being given the optionality to get whatever price you want on any given matchup? Like, if I want to fade a given golfer in a given week, I'm stuck I have to bet on this guy that I may not love. Like, why can't I just say, okay, this guy I have circled as a fade and I want to match him up against these 6 players, give me prices? Like, is that in any way, shape, or form the future of the sport, or is that just create way too many black swan events for the bookmaker?
No, I think, it's difficult because ideally, you would have some sort of interface where you can just pair, Xander Schauffele going up against Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele going up against Scotty Scheffler, and just being able to do that. But I guess just the nature of the matchups not being just purely derivative of the outright price, and some golfers having, a lot more variance. For instance, I always think of Brooks Koepka when he was on the PGA Tour, having immense upside to actually win a tournament, but then also having immense downside to miss the cut completely, where he didn't care halfway through if it wasn't trending. So I think that from a pricing perspective makes it difficult. And then also it's just made difficult by the fact that there's just the tech around it. There needs to be improvement around that, across the industry to be able to make that a bit more fluid. And, I think we're seeing it more and more where that tech is being implemented, but for the NFL and the NBA, which are just bigger betting sports at this point. And then also I think it's the fact that When I started at PointsBet in the US in like 2019, I think like 70% of our bets were just on the outright for golf. Just like everyone was betting outrights. And now, when I left PointsBet, 6 months ago or whatever, it was, well under 50%, and a lot more was transitioning to live. People are betting more derivative markets. So I think that's just naturally going to create a bit more demand for these types of markets. But the thing with golf is that it's live betting. Live betting is what is going to that. You're going to be able to, bet on whether Scotty Scheffler in real time is going to make or miss this 8-foot putt at -110 each side. Like, that is the stuff that is really huge for the sport. And betting live matchups, betting more matchup options. I think all that is coming. It's just that people are they're so attached to just betting the outright on a Thursday morning and betting 5 different guys and then hoping one is in the mix on Sunday, and that's just kind of ironed in. But yeah, I think all of that stuff is coming. So yeah, I think golf is probably, in a way, the most untapped sport in terms of betting opportunities. So yeah, it's a lot.
That's interesting, because it's funny, because like you see the rise of the same game parlay. The people want the lotto ticket price. Like, that's pretty clearly, the lesson that you take from a couple of years of legalization in the United States, at least. And I mean, golf affords itself the lotto ticket price. In fact, you can have lots of them. Like, go right ahead. But maybe there is a little bit of like, you develop a little bit of a loss aversion. If you kind of place, 5, 6 outrights, and you're like, man, none of these guys are even live on the weekend. What do I do? Well, now I go to the live market and I get a much worse price, and I'm just trying to get my money back. Like, I get that it kind of builds up a little bit of a loss aversion, and maybe the players get exhausted by it. Whereas the idea of giving people a 50-50 price on a given shot, or giving people the opportunity to see a couple of rounds of golf and then being like, so who do you like? You like Rahm or Scotty? Like, oh, we know that these guys are coming down the wire. One of them's going to win. Who do you want it to be? And then Nick Taylor would, like, all of a sudden comes out of nowhere and wins, and then everybody's like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. But I completely get that, and that's interesting that there was a pivot to more and more live kind of action. Was it a 50-50 split pre-match and live by the time you were kind of on your way out the door?
Yeah, I think it was majority was live at that point, and
majority.
Still,
oh wow,
yeah, most of it is on still the outright live, but there was a ton of next hole, and I think that's what books want to push, because there's just more and more markets. It's kind of it's not the same game parlay experience, but it is the experience of being able to just like get back in. So I mean, that's the stuff, the whole performance thing that really took off, but. Yeah, when I started in 2019, it was 70 to 80% pre-match, and now it was trending above 60% live. So that is definitely the future. All right, let's hit a promo, and then we'll talk first round leader market. Just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in the Premier League and in college basketball. All right, let's talk about first round leader market and who you expect to get out to a hot start. Drew, Jon Rahm is the favorite. I feel like golf order has been restored with Jon Rahm, the favorite for everything again, after he had, by his standards at least, down year last year. It was always easy to kind of handicap everything when you had, particularly towards the end of 2021, when Jon Rahm was just going off at +600 for tournaments, as he was at the end of that year. But he is the favorite at 20-1, first round leader, followed by Rory, 22-1, Scotty Scheffler, 25-1. Anyone that you like in this market?
So here's what I would tell you about the first round leader market. If you consider outright betting lotto tickets, then this is like darts at lotto tickets. First round leader is so high variance. You need to kind of carefully consider more guys further down the board, in my opinion. And this is funny because this is flying in the face of last year's result, because I think Joaquin Niemann, last year's champion, basically went wire to wire. Like, he was nuclear hot on day one, got out to a huge lead, and then just kind of lapped the field basically from memory. But this year, and you see the outright prices on guys like Rahm, Rory and Scheffler are a lot shorter outright than these first round leader prices. And there's a reason for that. A lot of round one of the golf for the guys who are ultimately going to contend for this title is we need to figure out our strategy on this course. The lead up to the tournament is a lot of, hey, if you've got money, if you are if you are flush from your winnings and you are a good golfer and you have the best team, your team comes out early. They're watching practice rounds on Monday and Tuesday. They are doing practice rounds with you on Tuesday and Wednesday. And all of that is trying to information collect. What changes did they make to this course? What strategy should we use on hole X, Y, and Z? What strategies are working on hole X, Y, and Z today, given these conditions? And all of that feeds into sort of a better understanding, course knowledge, and course strategy, which ultimately on something like Riviera, that becomes paramount, because there are so many holes where you only can, navigate a scoring shot, or you must navigate par by playing the hole a certain way, getting your ball into a certain side of the fairway, getting your approach shot above or below the hole, right? And so kind of all of these guys, in my opinion, at least at the top of the board, would likely use round one as information gathering much more so than, hey, we got to get out to a lead. We're just gonna take some chances, because there's a little bit of risk aversion with a lot of these guys too. You take too many chances on day one, you could find yourself in a tough spot on day two in terms of making the cut. And the name of the game for all of these guys is I overall have a strokes gained type of lead on the field, and therefore get yourself to the weekend and then kind of flex your muscles a little bit. So I would basically throw out the entire top 20 guys on the board for first round leader, and I would look more at names like interestingly enough, guys that won last week, Jason Day. I thought Jason Day performed very well out of the gate and is playing very good golf right now. He is still being priced like the guy that we saw for the majority of last season, not the guy that we've seen so far this year. So Jason Day pops by my numbers for first round leader. I have plus EV bets on Taylor Montgomery. I have Brian Harmon circled. And then among the guys that are kind of in or near the top 20 who I think have a realistic chance to be your first round leader, Sanjay Im pops for me. So those are the handful of FRL bets that I think are worth making. And again, you need kind of the right mix of a guy who is good enough to put up scores, but is not necessarily looking to, truly capture outright win here, because again, you don't want to take too many chances on day one. Does that all make sense?
That all makes sense to me. I was also very happy with the mention of my countryman, Jason Day, who I'm not sure we're talking about.
He's playing great.
Yeah, he is. He's back. Major winner, Jason Day. I told you about the time I was at the Players Championship last year and a group of kids came up to me thinking I was Jason Day. Major winner, Jason Day. They would have gone in quite a shock when they took that photo back to their parents. I had a photo with Jason Day. It's not Jason Day.
You got the accent and everything, though. It's definitely Jason Day.
Yeah, definitely Jason Day. Anyway, the weather, Drew, in Pacific Palisades. What kind of factor do you think the weather's going to play this weekend?
Yeah, in general, doesn't really look to me to be a primary factor, although there is going to be some wave bias. Again, if you're betting the first round leader market, wave bias can be enormously important. That drove the entire first round leaderboard last week. There was a huge bias to the players that started in the afternoon last week. In a completely neutral situation, I give a slight bump to the players who play in the afternoon, just because they get to glean information from the first round, right? They're sitting there watching, their caddies are out there collecting information. And so they tend to perform a little bit better if there is totally neutral situation. Now, normally in the Palisades and normally in California and the West Coast in general, the winds can kick up a little bit more in the afternoon until you get towards the, glass off time, which is like right a little bit before sunset. You are not you could have some difficult windy conditions. So it's a little bit unpredictable. The canyon, the Palisades in general, just have their own little microclimate. So if you're looking at LA weather broadly, it's not giving you a super great picture of what's going on in the Palisades. So just kind of look specifically for Pacific Palisade weather for some information there. But I'm not expecting that to be a major factor, at least through days 1 and 2. And I think the forecast that they have, looking ahead for the weekend, is going to change based on what I'm seeing through a couple of different predictors.
Okay, the whale capper does meteorology. I like it.
You have to if you're riding golf or baseball. Yeah, that's kind of the name of the game.
Also, we're going to talk about the course, the Riviera course design and the fit. And so from what I know about the course is that it's relatively forgiving and that driving accuracy isn't something that's prized. If you look at, data golf and the golfers who are going to suffer the most from this course, it's guys like Colin Morikawa who famously are extremely accurate. So how does this kind of affect the handicap? Is there anyone in particular you think benefits?
So in my opinion, the course fit from a strokes game perspective is not perfect for this course on Data Golf. I think they're taking a little bit too much on driving distance and not enough on driving accuracy. And I think they're a little light in the approach department. To me, approach is everything here. I will take a more accurate driver over a driver who can go long here. This is not an especially long course. And I will take a golfer who is really, really feeling it from an approach standpoint, because I like I mentioned, the way, course management is kind of the name of the game here. And there is no strokes gained course management, right? That's a little bit of a subjective handicap in terms of which of these golfers and their teams in general are good and capable at managing the course. What I mean by course management is where are you putting yourself in position as you go around the course, and that's, again, it's a subjective thing. You need to basically try to watch and evaluate how any given team is like approaching a certain, or not approaching as in like approaching the green, but how they're approaching the management of the course. And for me, at least, that does bring the cream to the top in terms of the best golfers in the world. And the only guys that I would kind of rule out who are in the top 20, who I don't think necessarily fit this course very well. I'm down on Cantlay. I am down on Morikawa. Morikawa's approach, for whatever reason, even though he was famously like the strokes gained approach god in his run up, when he tweaked his drive a little bit, he's introduced a lot more variability in his approach, and so his ability to put it on the correct spot of the green has completely deteriorated. So Morikawa is down for me, Cantlay's down for me, Finau is down for me, and guys like Max Homa, Sungjae Im is up, Max Homa's up. And of course, the big names like Rahm. I have Rahm as the top golfer coming in, course fit wise. Scheffler number 2, Schauffele number 3, McIlroy 4 for me. So a little bit of a shuffling compared to some of the other rankings out there. And then after that, I'm looking at Im and Max Homa. So those are sort of the guys that I would put towards the top in terms of course fit. But again, like I'm looking for elite approach as the guy that I would circle to be the winner.
Okay. Yeah, I'm all aboard fading Colin Morikawa. I think Morikawa, he tends to get on real in ruts with his putter. That's been the story with him, is that if his putter is on, then he's almost the best golfer in the world. But he does get into these ruts where if that's off, then it often tends to be off for a couple tournaments in a row. And he was dreadful with the putter in Phoenix, and that caused him to miss the cut entirely. So might want to see Morikawa correct that.
Yeah.
I think, is that something you look for live with guys like Morikawa, if they're putting really well on day one, to then jump in live on an outright if they've got that going in their game?
I'm not a subscriber to putting confidence being a thing. I put it more squarely in the true variance category. Like I have seen enough, and I've been on the wrong side of enough guys who were hot and believing in them, and then seeing them just go absolutely the other direction. from round to round. And honestly, you look at strokes gained putting, it's the least correlated from a round to round standpoint. And so a guy who has a huge day putting isn't necessarily going to go out there and let it up the next day. And in fact, that's kind of a decent round 2, round 3 betting strategy. I tend to like to look for particular matchups that are hung where you have a guy that gained 2 or 3 strokes on putting in round 1 against a guy who lost strokes putting round 1. And then if those guys are priced fairly even in the second round, but the quality of the golfer who lost strokes is better, I will absolutely take on that player for round 2, expecting regression to the mean when it comes to strokes gained putting. I think that's sort of the name of the game. At least that's the most effective way I can really kind of ascribe, round by round betting. If you want to add a layer of nuance to that and find guys who didn't do great on approach, but were amazing putters in a given round, and then matched up with a guy who was incredible on approach but did poorly putting, that's another really effective way, I think, to find second round, third round, fourth round matchups that are advantage bets.
Yep, that makes sense. And to immediately contradict myself, what I said prior, I do think it is generally a good tactic to particularly guys like Jon Rahm last year, who really struggled with his putter, to just, if the market is baking that in, to just fade it the other way, because it is so variable. Tournament to tournament, round.
You bring up a very good point, though. There's definitely, at least in my opinion, there's not a hot hand with respect to putting. Right? Like if you're putting well, it can go away pretty quickly.
Yep.
But the opposite is not necessarily true, right?
Yep.
If you're struggling and you've lost confidence in your putt, if you're, all of a sudden now you're second guessing every read, all of a sudden you're like, how am I not finding the hole? And literally that was Rahm's problem for 6 months last year. Like it was a long time where it was like, this guy ever going to buy a putt? Like what is happening? Like that I do think can linger and is worth keeping an eye on. So that I think you need a broader signal though. Like you can't just take a guy like, if somebody had a decent round putting in, out in Scottsdale and they have a bad first round putting at Riviera, then bring them on. Like I'll bet them, like no problem at all. Give me some of that. But if it's now like the entirety of 2023 so far, it's not working out well. And if you ask your golf friends who are pros, semi-pros, and you're like, what's going on with this guy's putter? It's like, oh well, he got a new putter, or he trying a new grip, or he's going from this to this. It's like, oh okay, well maybe there's a good reason to completely stay away or find ways to fade a guy like that.
Yep, that makes sense. All right, let's hit a promo and then talk about top 10, top 20, and the outright. A reminder to download the Roto World app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. All right, top 10, top 20. Drew, anyone you like in these markets?
Yeah, there's a couple that really stand out to me, and I got to stick with the LA guy. I mean, he's already got a win on the season. He is the guy that I am the most excited to bet for the U.S. Open when it comes to the LA Country Club, Mr. Max Homa. Max Homa was quietly very solid in at the Waste Management Open. Again, he was of course the winner at Torrey Pines, and he is told me we were a guy who just a great kind of nowhere story, and great to cheer for, and sort of a threat to legitimate top 10 golfer in the world. I would have said no way, but we are like, it is Max Homa. He is in the top 10 and he should be priced that way. I think the fact that you can get him at current market prices. Let me see what the best on the board is for Max top 10. Give me anything in the ballpark of plus money here, and I am happy to take him on. The other guy that really stands out for me for this tournament, as I kind of already mentioned in the context of first round leader, I think Sungjae Im is a really nice fit here. He of course is a guy that is a little less easy to cheer for, but I think realistically is going to be in the final pairings come round 4 here. Played I thought he played a very, very solid round of golf, last time around. And again, nice fit for the Riviera course, and a guy that I would expect to finish in the top 10. The last guy I'm going to mention, and this is a little controversial because not a lot of people really, I don't think, have great fares on him right now. They're not necessarily ranked, they're not necessarily putting him in the conversation among the top 10. Definitely not among, definitely a borderline top 20, definitely not among the top 10 golfers in the world right now is Jordan Spieth. Spieth had the disadvantage of playing against the good conditions in rounds 1 and round 2 at the Waste Management Open, and it did not matter. He was electric. He caught some bad variance, I thought, in round 3 that really took him out of, the ability to put himself in the final grouping and really give him the chance to really compete for a win in Scottsdale. But I think there is a little bit of hidden signal in how well he struck the ball, how well he scrambled. He had some wayward tee shots, which is the Jordan Spieth experience, but then came away with some just absolutely absurd, ridiculous approaches from difficult positions. And I like that even without a ton of driving accuracy, he can still find a really solid approach here. So to me, that upgrades his ability from, shots gained, strokes gained approach. And I think he's going to finish in the top 10 this week. So the 3 top 10s that I would play are Max Homa, Sungjae Im, and Jordan Spieth.
Yep, I like the look on Spieth. As you said, his issue is that, can't hit fairways, and this is one of the courses that almost forgive that. All right, let's close out by talking the outright market. Do you think it's correct that Rahm is this short, followed by McIlroy as the top of the board, right?
I cannot get close to plus 750 for Rahm, considering how good this field is. Now, last week, his price was even more ridiculous. So there's a little bit of the market is not quite as bullish on Jon Rahm this week as it was last week. I think he closed like plus 450 before that round teed off last week at a couple of the market making shops, which was like, does somebody already know he won? Like, how could in the world could he be that short? Plus 750 is a little bit of relief. That's a little bit of a walking that back, which is fine. He didn't play his best golf throughout the weekend last week, and I think realistically there should be some correction there. But my fair price for Rahm is plus 910, so I want no part of plus 750. Now, the relative price at the top of the board does look correct to me. I do think that Rahm has a meaningful, better win percentage than Rory McIlroy does here. McIlroy, of course, playing with Tiger Woods and Justin Thomas in a grouping in round 1 and round 2 here, which is kind of fun. It's certainly going to be the most watched grouping. McIlroy, Tiger Woods, famous friends. Tiger Woods with a lot of course knowledge, and maybe is sharing a little bit of that with McIlroy, maybe sharing a little bit of that with Justin Thomas as they're out there on the grouping. But he's going to need that to close the gap on Rahm the way that they're currently playing. And I think that relative pricing is correct. But for me, Rory McIlroy fair price is plus 1100. So I'm out on betting him at plus 900 as well. So the one that everybody seems at the top of this board, everybody is trying to fade Scotty Scheffler. Nobody likes to bet a guy that just won a tournament like he won. And a little bit of the exhale this week, go get a check, kind of make the sponsors happy, and then go to Florida and prepare for the next swing of the tour is sort of what's expected from Scheffler. And if that happens, wouldn't be surprised. The golfer that everybody is super, super hot on that I am out on is Justin Thomas. He had an amazing round 4. Yes, that's true last week. And a lot of times guys carry that sort of momentum into the next tournament. That does happen. But I just am not seeing enough from Thomas at all to put him near the top 10 of golfers, let alone the 5th shortest price in this field is kind of crazy to me. My fair price for Thomas is 25 to 1. So really, other than the guys we've already talked about, all of the guys at the top of this board look too short for my current prices. And could one of these 6 win? Absolutely. These are elite golfers. They should be at the top of the board. I think there's just a little bit of a top heavy tax right now, the way these are priced.
Okay. Well, last one for you, Drew. Any long shot bet that particularly grabs the eye?
Okay. So down the board, there's I don't think a lot of realistic chances of guys who can or who have a realistic chance to win. But the one guy in sort of the 100-1 range that I'm going to stick my flag in, I'm going to take a little Tommy Fleetwood this week. Wow. I think Tommy Fleetwood, you can find some really, really, really big prices on Tommy Fleetwood. And there's a decent, I make kind of I give him a 7.5% chance to land in the top 10. I give Tommy a not quite 2% chance to win the tournament, and he's priced in the 100-1 ish range. So of the long shots, he's my favorite. I don't tend to play a lot of 100-1, 200, 150, 200-1 guys, just because the likelihood that they ultimately do it is so low. You have to donk every week until you hit one, and it's just not quite as much fun, because I only really like to sink my teeth into the bigger, the more fun fields when I know I'm going to be watching all week, and I know not a great way to play, not a plus EV way to play, to bet on golf in general. But Fleetwood, if you can find better than 100-1, I think you put that in your pocket and you hope he's there live come weekend.
Okay, there you go. Maybe a little Tommy Fleetwood Genesis into Christian Wood 6 Man of the Year parlay at 12,000-1. 12,000-1. Be a great way to start the weekend. All right, we are done. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. John McGuinness wasn't able to make it, but we'll no doubt catch up with him in the near future. And last thing, a reminder, if you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick. We'll see you soon.